to members new and old of the Neon Gutter Gang. We are very happy you joined us. I'm your bargain basement host, Burt Cohen, and with me today, as always, are my two co-hosts, Matt and Dan. Hey, Matt.
Hello. I am very excited for today's show because I will actually get to talk to somebody interesting.
And Dan, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm just coming in from my tiny little stables, feeding my tiny little horses. They eat plastic.
Well, now, if any of our audience has listened to our recent episodes detailing our $39 a day Vegas trip that turned into a 25-cent a day Vegas adventure, you know that one of the big disappointments we had on that trip was our beloved Sigma Derby machine being out of order and unplayable.
So sad.
But it was very sad. But it turned into one of the highlights of the trip because of that broken Derby machine. And that was the fact that we met one of the nation's foremost fans and experts of Sigma Derby while we were collecting around that machine. And we have him on the show today. Please welcome Ski. Hey, Ski, thanks for being on the podcast with us today.
Yes.
Hey, thanks, guys. Great to be here.
So good to have you on the Neon Gutter. Thanks so much.
Yeah,
seriously.
it's a treat for us.
Well, you haven't done the interview yet either.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes for the next 40 minutes or so.
Yeah, we might rescind that.
Yeah, this one might be going into the archives real quick.
Oh no, you haven't. You obviously haven't listened to the other episodes. You don't know how low we go.
As I mentioned, we had such a great time meeting you back in December at the Sigma Derby at the D, and we got to know a lot about you at the time. But for our listeners and for our audience, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Wow, first of all, that statement makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck. And why is that? All right. I was a fighter pilot in the Air Force for 30 years, and I flew F-4s and F-15s. And in the first squadron meeting, after a new guy shows up at the unit, somebody would jump up and go and ask the new guy, "Hey, stand up and tell us about yourself." And as soon as the new guy would stand up and start talking, everybody would go, "Sit down." So thanks for not doing that.
Okay. No.
They do that. If you ever remember the movie The Flight of the Intruder, they actually do that one in the ready room when they were kind of about halfway through that movie. But before I became a fighter pilot, I was actually a 1972 graduate of the Air Force Academy, 72 best in blue. Married my college sweetheart. We have 3 children. 6 grandchildren, and 8 great-grandchildren.
Man,
you got to be kidding me.
Oh, nice.
And,
amazing.
We live in Colorado, and now that I'm retired, I get to go to Vegas almost once a month so I can play Sigma Derby.
Very nice. Well, frankly, all those Air Force stories have to be super boring compared to your Sigma Derby stories.
Yes.
So let's get right into that.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like flying jets or playing with little horses. Go to the horses.
So what was your history like with Sigma Derby? When did you first see it? Where was that? How did you get started and interested in it?
Well, it was in the late 1980s, and the first time I played was at the Frontier. And my fighter squadron that I was in at that time deployed to Nellis Air Force Base for training. I don't know if it was red flag or just regular training with the units up there. And after you're done flying, the pilots would go downtown for the evening and go seek out entertainment at the local establishments. And one of the favorite games we used to play was Crapless Craps.
Oh, wow.
Now,
Stu-Pack special.
By
That's 2 packs.
By the end of the 80s, those tables had kind of disappeared, although I guess they're starting to come back now. But at that time, they were gone.
Yeah, you know what's funny, Ski, is we also were playing Crapless Craps at the same time in probably the same places. We might have crossed paths 30-something years ago.
We might have.
And didn't even realize it. Yeah.
Yeah. If you were in Little Caesars,
oh yeah,
we probably, were at the table at the same time.
Do you remember the Dixie cups full of Schaefer's beer and the 50-cent hot dogs at Little Caesars?
I remember the cheap beer. Yeah.
Yeah. And those fuzzy black and white TVs behind the sports book there.
Oh, yeah. Well, everything at that time was cheap in Vegas.
Yeah.
It's changed quite a bit in the last, 40 yeyears. So,
Yep.
But like I was saying, one evening we were downtown and we couldn't find a crapless craps table, and we just didn't want to play regular craps. So a couple of us saw Sigma Derby and we decided, oh, okay, let's go over there and play. And heck, we looked and it only cost a quarter. Now, a quarter was a lot more money in the 1980s, but still, that was a reasonable bet. And it looked like fun. Everybody was having a good time. You got free drinks. So in our opinion, it was perfect. So we saddled up and we started to play.
Wow. So mid 80s at the Frontier was your first game.
Yeah, toward the end of the 80s, actually.
Okay.
Then actually the Sigma Derby was built like in 1985, the first time it actually came out.
Did you ever have to cross the picket line to play Sigma Derby at the Frontier?
No.
Because they seem to always be picketing there.
After a while, when the Derby actually wound up getting transferred up to the MGM Grand, when they finally got their first one, then we started playing up there a lot more. Spent a lot more time on the corner of Trop and the Strip. When those properties started to develop in the beginning of the 90s, the MGM used to be the old Marina Hotel back in the old days.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
But amazing that even then, 25 cents was a good deal, and that's the one game that's always the same price, no matter when you play, whether it's 85
they had real penny slots then. Really,
actual penny slots. Yeah.
Yep. We actually, on our most recent trip, we found a place where you can still make a 1 cent wager. The Aztec Casino across from Stratosphere has video poker machines where you can bet 1 cent a hand still. So if you need to find us, we'll be there.
Not the false advertising where you bet 1 cent, but you got to play 60 lines.
Yeah,
exactly.
So
we were there all afternoon.
About 67 cents.
So how much Sigma Derby ski do you think you've played over the years?
I want to know this one too.
How often do you play these days?
All right. Well, I really, at the beginning, I didn't really play that much. We played it, and it was, okay, it was great. After that, didn't really come to Vegas all that often, maybe once a year, like many of the players today that show up at the Sigma Derby there at the D. Once a year time players, hey, what is this? Well, let's play it. My parents actually moved to Vegas in 1991 out of SoCal. And after that, my wife and I started to make more trips to Vegas because they were getting up in age. And so we had to come and check on them. And we went to Vegas a lot more. So I started playing a lot more often. And up until 2018, when the Derby at the MGM finally died, I probably had about 35,000 races on the MGM machine. And and then after it died on one of the worst days of my life, 3 October 2018.
Wow, you remember the day.
I probably played another 19,000 races the D up to this point.
Jeez.
Amazing.
Amazing.
That's a lot of quarters.
That's a lot of quarters.
And physical quarters. There's no dollar bill acceptor on a Sigma Derby.
No, that's a lot of quarters.
I'm thinking about that, thinking like, oh, I love Sigma Derby. I play it all the time. And I bet I've maybe seen 1,000 races in my life. So
you've probably actually
phenomenal.
seen more than that.
Yeah.
So that's like, if I'm doing the math right, that's like $12,000.
It's actually probably closer to $75,000.
Yeah, he's put that more than
one coin at a time. That's right.
That's right.
No, I'm not a lowball guy, and we'll talk about that. But I'm thinking I've kind of done some math over time. Now, of course, fortunately, I haven't lost that much, but I think I've cycled a lot of money through the machine, and the old time players that have been playing this thing for a long time have too,
Wow.
So let me ask you this. Do you know people who have played more than you?
I know some people have played a lot.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't think that anybody has really played that much. Now, there may be. There's a couple of locals that are in town that play at the D, and they do play a lot. And, they did play other places before, but I don't know. I think that's a heck of a lot of races. I'm thinking that I might be out in the lead, with a couple of furlongs to go.
You got to be up there. For sure.
I think so.
It seems sort of impossible that any of our listeners would not know what Sigma Derby is, but just in case, Ski, maybe you can walk us through the game a little bit. Like if someone comes up to you and says, "You do what in Las Vegas? You play Sigma Derby? What's Sigma Derby?" How do you explain the game to them? What exactly
Actually, I whip out my iPhone and then I've had a picture of it, and then you show them, and that's how. But since we don't have that ability, the way they describe it is Sigma Derby's a mechanical horse race game where the players bet on 5 horses trying to pick vanilla. The first 2 horses to finish in any order. Like I said kind of before, it was built in 1985 by a Japanese gaming company called Sigma Corporation. And it's pretty easy to play. For every race, there's a set of odds from 2 to 200 that are posted on each race on the screen on the track. And a player has 30 seconds to place a bet. And interestingly, the word sigma in Greek is 200. So I think that's the reason why they picked that name.
I had no idea.
200 to 1.
200 to 1 is a long shot.
I love that.
Which only one of our friends has ever hit the 200 to 1.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I've got 20.
Wow.
Nice.
On the D machine.
So jealous.
If you hit a 200 to 1, do you have to buy a round of drinks or anything? You know, like in golf, if you hit a hole in one, you got to buy everyone drinks or something. Is there any 200 to 1 tradition?
Everybody's worried about trying to get their quarters dropped, and then, but you know what? A round of drinks is not too bad when you're, there. Like, it's okay. Hey, you call over one of the cocktail waitresses, Darcy or some of the girls, and they'll come over and take care of you.
So you said 1985? Was that the first one?
Those were the first ones that came off the line. Like I say, though, I didn't start playing until the end of the 80s.
Yeah.
Just kind of missed it.
Did they show up in Vegas first, or is there some international market for them?
Don't know. I know that they were, I know that they were up in Reno and Lake Tahoe, but have no idea. I never saw them in Atlantic City. Okay, when I was in the F-15 business there at Langley, we would go up to fight the guys, the F-16 unit up in Atlantic City. We'd go downtown, but honestly, I don't ever remember seeing them there.
But they were much more common back in the day, right? They were kind of all over town.
For sure. Mm-hmm. After, like, at the end of the 80s and the beginning of the 90s and the middle of the 90s, they were, like, everywhere. I like to say they were like dirt,
Wow.
So,
to be alive.
If you couldn't find a Sigma Derby machine to play in Vegas, you aren't looking.
Yeah, and I remember in mid-90s in Tahoe at Harvey's, they had 2 machines right next to each other, so that they were that ubiquitous at the time.
I remember them in Circus. Was that right? Am I mistaken?
No, they had. I know they had at least one there. They had him. They had him over at what was the Hilton at the time.
Yeah, right by the sports book. I remember.
I think they had 2 over there for a while too.
Yeah,
they had 2 up the Mountain Blue at South Lake Tahoe.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And in fact, the Mount Blue machines, and I think they're Bally's now, as I recall. I don't know. We haven't been to South Lake Tahoe in a while. Guess what? When the Derby disappeared from South Lake Tahoe, ain't going there anymore.
That's the last I saw you.
So that's it. Sorry, no more Derby. No Derby at South Lake Tahoe. We're not going there.
Well, South Lake Tahoe. If you're not going for the lake, the casinos are kind of depressing in South Lake Tahoe now, anyway. So,
true.
Yeah, if they have no Sigma Derby, I agree with you. I'm not going.
Yeah, we're not going there. When they started coming out, they all had horses, but then they started putting themes to them.
Yeah,
and. When the Excalibur opened up in 1990, they had Knights of the Round Table on the horses as opposed to just 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 horses. And one of my really good buddies has one of those as a keepsake. He's actually has one of the Knights of the Round Table,
like one of the Knights.
From the Excalibur machine. Pretty cool.
That's cool. That's a great keepsake.
And Caesars, when they opened, they put chariots on their machine.
Yeah, perfect.
I remember that.
As opposed to horses. Yep. And their machine used to be right there, kind of like the entryway to the forum shops.
Yeah.
It moved around a lot, but that's kind of where it was until it kind of disappeared. Then the Luxor, when they opened up in 1993, they had, remember the Luxor had a Nile River cruise on the inside of the casino. It used to go in there, and it was kind of like a little boat ride. You'd go around the outside of
It's a small
pyramid.
world, basically.
Yeah, kind of. That was it. And So they had that for a couple of years, and their Sigma Derby actually at that time had canal boats instead of horses. Right. And then the Nile Cruise River Ride didn't last that long. I think it was only maybe a year, maybe 2.
Yeah.
If it lasted 2 years, I'd be surprised.
I always wondered about that, whether they stopped the Nile River Ride because it was dumb or because it made the whole casino smell like chlorine.
Yeah.
Both.
Probably both.
And nobody was, actually, nobody was riding it, you know? Maybe they got 1 or 2, hey, first time things, but in general, it was a waste of space. And, you know, when casino bosses are looking at the square footage on their floor, they're looking to do stuff with it, and having a boat floating on a piece of, on a piece of the property that is covered by water is, not paying them a lot of cash.
Nope.
So those guys disappeared. So the Nile boats disappeared, and they replaced the Nile boats on the Sigma Derby at the Luxor with camos. And
which is
they
cool.
were there until that machine died.
Yeah, that's cool.
I don't remember. Did the camels' heads bob, or were the camels fixed?
No, they were the same. They were just like the horses, but yeah.
And did they change like the layout around the camels? Like, with...
No, it's still, like how the one down at the D just has the square thing and they have the horses laying in the infield.
Yeah.
They had a couple of camels instead of regular horses.
Okay.
And I don't think they had any pine trees, since it was probably supposed to be like Saudi Arabia or something like that. I've been there, and the last time I checked, there aren't too many pine trees in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
Yeah, they could at least put like sand and a pyramid in the middle, I would think, but oh well.
Now, we love Sigma Derby, of course, and you love Sigma Derby, of course, but why do you think it's so much fun? What makes Sigma Derby so much more fun than almost, anything that's out there in casinos these days, in a modern day casino?
Well, and I think everybody who plays Sigma Derby and has played it more than once, and actually, probably played it twice and has been there to enjoy the atmosphere. The reason why Sigma Derby was and still is popular is because it's a social game. It's kind of like craps, going back to crapless craps. And, when we were looking for a place to play crapless craps and couldn't find it, we found the Derby. That's kind of the reason why we found it and looked at it and said, hey, this might work. But in this case, everybody's standing around the table, and instead of, yelling for, a 7 or, for a particular number, they're yelling at plastic horses. So come on.
Yelling at plastic horses. No better way to spend your night.
Everyone knows it makes no difference whatsoever.
What?
You're yelling at the plastic horses. And yes,
I would dispute that.
And yet it's so much
totally
fun.
Disagree with that.
It's so much fun not only to yell at the plastic horses, but to yell at the other players who are betting against you or rooting with the guys who are betting with you. And like you make friends. Oh man, but it's
well, see, you guys are betting against each other. Normally when I'm there, the table is betting against the house, so everybody's looking for the good numbers to come in. But it's kind of like you guys play golf, right? Raise your hand if you've ever talked to a golf ball, Yeah. Hey, come back. Get down.
Get in the hole.
So if you're talking to a golf ball, you may as well be able to talk to a plastic horse.
Sure.
I've spoken to bowling balls before, so.
Yeah.
Well, let's put it this way. It can't hurt.
Yes, exactly.
That's a good point.
But it's pretty amazing. I mean, we've made so many friends. I mean, not long-term friendships, but when you're at the table together, you're friends with everyone there. And
yeah.
Well, it's kind of crazy, when you think about it. When you're playing with a lot of people, they're playing a quarter on the 2-to-1 odds or 3-to-1 odds or something like that, and people still get really excited about winning like 2 quarters at 2-to-1. You think like at Derek Stevens, the owner of the D and the Circa is going to come over from the Circa and hand him a W2G, for their 75 cents.
Or maybe a big check. You're one of those big cardboard
novelty
checks.
check. Here's your
But
75 cents.
Nobody should ever cheer for the 2-1, and nobody should ever be rewarded for betting on the 2-1. That's shameful, in my opinion.
I've been, I go there a lot, and heck, I remember just when we were there a couple of weeks ago, it was like, one couple were playing the low odds, and when 2 would come in, oh, I won. All right, well, hey, that's great. And the rest of us are getting smoked because, we've got like multiple bets on the table, and we've got 2Cs and 3Cs here and there. And your 2-1 just came in, and I've got a cover on it. But you know what? 2 quarters ain't covering 8. So.
But when you need a win, Lucky Ned bets a 2-1 when he needs a win. Like, I just need a win tonight.
It's just so anticlimactic when the favorite wins, though.
Of course.
Oh, but if you need a win.
Like after watching as many races as I have, you get to know the races like as they're run, and you see certain breaks, and you see certain things happening in the middle, and then you see certain finishes. And I have a theory about like that's how the game is kind of divided into thirds. And that's how they programmed it. But that's just me. And that's just me looking at the machine.
So curious.
A lot. But, like you're sitting there and that, say, like the 2-horse and the 4-horse are the long shots. And you're hoping that they're going to come in. But you also know that let's say like the 3 and the 5 are the 2 favorites. And you see the 3 kind of in position. And then you see the 5 and he's lagging. And you're going to go, okay, well, I might get paid. And then it's like when they hit the far turn and they're coming down the stretch, it's like the 5-horse comes down the track like he shot out of a cotton cannon.
Yeah, right.
And
I was wondering about that.
Then the 3-5 hits and it's like for 2-1 and as soon as I see the 5 making the break down the stretch and it's like you're gonna get hosed.
Yeah.
It's like I always say. Prepare for disappointment.
Wow. But it's amazing that you can see it happening before it happens. Like the rest of the table doesn't know, but you've seen it enough
that's like, That's like 19,000 races. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, guys, we're going to take a little break here, but to our audience, as Ski says, prepare yourself for disappointment because we do have more show coming up. But we need to earn a few quarters so we can wager on the next race. So we'll take a quick commercial break. Not yet. Wait till the horses get up to the gate. So we'll be back very soon with more info, advice, and expert lingo from Ski that you can use the next time you visit the toy track. Stick with us.
Wait a minute. Something seems to be wrong. Where are the jockeys? The name of the game is Aurora Derby. Each time you get your ball in the hole, your horse moves.
Starts charging ahead. Pinocchio moving along the rail. Lockjaw closing in. It's Petticott and Pinocchio neck and neck. Petticott and Pinocchio cheek to cheek. Looks like a photo finish.
60,000 fans out there, and you guys are in here playing a game. What do I tell them? Tell them Pinocchio won by a nose. Aurora Derby. It's a racetrack in your own home.
Hello, you know me. I'm world-famous toy horse handicapper Lucky Ned. I know listeners of the Neon Gutter love Sigma Derby as much as we do, so we're going to bring you the races at your home or wherever you listen to the podcast, no matter where that is. Could be walking a dog or like visiting your auntie or maybe going to the moon. I'm going to give you the odds for the next race, and you can bet as many quarters as you like on the outcome. After the next segment of the podcast, we'll return to give you a live call of the race with all the cataclop excitement you can handle. The horses, they can't wait to bolt out of the gate. Look at them down there. So let's get to it. Okay, the 1-2 combo comes in at 2-1, or as I like to call it, boo to 1. 1-3 is at 8-1. 1-4 is 4-1. That's like a palindrome, 1-4, 4-1. And 1-5 is paying out at 15-1. We got 2-3 at 14-1, 2-4 at 7-1, and 2-5 at 26-1, A to Z. Rounding out the field, we got 3-4 at 29-1, while 3-5 is an enticing, tantalizing long shot at 107-1. Finally, 4-5 posts up at 54-1. Now, don't you be fooled by the odds shown on the Sigma Derby game itself. Those numbers show you the unmodified odds of any given pair of horses coming in first and second. What they don't tell you is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Those numbers obstruct, obfuscate, and occlude, and that's just rude. Everybody knows that the number 7 is the luckiest number in any casino. except for 16, of course, and 42, and 28, 106, and of course all the prime numbers. But with that in mind, be sure to put all your quarters, and I mean a lot of quarters, on the 2-4 combination at 7-1, and then put half your quarters on the 2-3 at 14-1, because 14-1 is 2 sevens, 777. When you collect your winnings, then you'll know the truth and the whole truth. Until then, don't forget, what am I about to say? That's right, go with guts!
And we're back. We've been talking about our favorite casino game, Sigma Derby, with our new friend Ski. First of all, Ski, thanks for not ditching out during the commercial break. We appreciate it.
Most people do.
I was tempted, but I came back.
It's very much appreciated.
Understandable.
Now, everyone we know loves to play Sigma Derby, but we're a little different than most people. We actually like staying in $4 a night Vegas motels for fun as well. Is the popularity of Sigma Derby widespread? Is there like a community out there of other Derby degenerates?
Oh, I like that.
Well, I don't think the popularity of Sigma Derby is that widespread anymore. And the reason why is because since 2007, when the Derby left the frontier, there was only one Derby in town, and that was the MGM until Derek Stevens down at the D started the Sigma Derby again in 2012. Like I said before, they had the Derby up in the Mount Blue at South Lake Tahoe until about 2024. So in reality, a lot of times you see people come up to the Derby that haven't been to Vegas that much, and they look at it, and it's kind of like a pig looking at a wristwatch. They
That's how I'm usually described. But
they start reading the instructions plate, and which to me seems pretty clear. But if you haven't ever bet on horses or dogs, then maybe not so much. And since the Sigma Derby machine at the D is the only one left on the planet, it's like an alien sighting from Area 51. And a lot of them just get intimidated and they just walk away. So, before they go, in between bets, normally I'll try to give them a quick tutorial and tell them what they're actually looking at. And if they stay and they drop a couple of quarters in the machine, normally they probably get hooked,
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So, but is there a Sigma Derby hardcore community? Oh yeah, you bet.
You're it.
The dirt. Yeah, this is the four of us, right? The Derby has its own Facebook page. It's called Save Sigma Derby. It actually got started when the Derby died at the MGM, and a couple of the hardcore players like myself and a number of the other guys tried to get the MGM Corporation to put it back on the floor. And trust me, we did a lot of hard work talking to people and, the casino vice president and of operations. And they just never were successful. So the webpage kind of got started, and it was our Facebook page, rather, Save Sigma Derby. And now it has like 3,000 followers on it. Wow. And, it's really kind of a rare occasion that when I play the Derby that I don't run into some of the locals like Brian, who plays in the afternoon. We call him the mayor of Sigma Derby, or Annette. She has a tendency to play in the morning, or she plays in the afternoon after she gets off from work. She works along the boulevard there on Fremont Street. Or somebody that, I remember that I played with from out of town, or somebody that remembers me because of my squeaky voice and my, beautiful flowing gray hair. So, normally,
so cool.
Normally you run into somebody almost all the time when you pull up to the track. Either somebody knows you or you know them. And that's one of the reasons why it's fun too. There's a community, and it's just a fun game to play.
And those people are showing up. They're showing up not just to play Sigma Derby, but to essentially commune with other Sigma Derby players.
Well, I don't know. I go to play.
Yeah.
Trust me. There are times when I'm sitting there and I'm concentrating on what's going on the track, and I'm looking at the odds, and I'm preparing to do my bet, I really don't want anybody bothering me. And then, after they break, then I become more of a social player, and then after you win or lose, and then, you got, in the old days, the way the machine was designed, you had 30 seconds to bet, and it's still that way. The clock seems to be running pretty good. But then the race would occur, and the race used to take 30 seconds. It's taken a little longer now than 30 seconds. It's probably up into 31, 32, maybe 33 seconds, depending on the race profile. And so I guess that's because the horses are now 40 years old and they're not running as fast.
That's right.
It's rare that you're able to bet on a race of 40-year-old horses. It is a rarity.
We're going to, you know what? They don't make glue out of those guys. They make Star Wars toys out of them.
That's probably right.
Do you have some good memories and favorite moments from playing the game over the years? You must.
Oh, yeah. A lot, but I'll just relate a couple of them. Okay, first of all, when you hit the 200-1, it's great.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, you got
right.
You got to, and you got to hit it for multiples too. So always bet at least 3. That way you get hand paid, and it feels really good.
Oh my God, that's cool! Wow.
I'm doing
it. But the real unforgettable moments are the ones that are involved long-term friendships with our other people, and I'm going to give you 2. I met Alex and his wife Elizabeth at the MGM track in 2017 when Hurricane Harvey was destroying their home in Houston.
Oh wow!
And they were they're playing the Derby and having a good time, sort of, while everything that they had in their lives was getting washed away toward the Gulf of Mexico, now the Gulf of America, and. So they actually had to stay in Vegas another week before they were able to return to their home and, start digging out. And we've been best friends ever since. They came through. We played Sigma Derby together, and they stayed with us last summer for a couple of days. And I email them back and forth, and we're friends on Facebook page, and so. That's just one of those lasting relationships that you generate sometimes through the game itself. The second one's even kind of a little bit more cool because it's got a little more substance to it as opposed to just a couple of guys and one of the guys' wives, sitting there at the table and yelling at plastic horses and having a thin one. The second one involves a lady from Missouri named Christine, and she and her entire family are big time Sigma Derby players. They make the Mecca to the Derby every year in normally June or July. And I met them after the MGM machine died in 2018, and that's when I started playing at the D. And Christine, unfortunately, was diagnosed with cancer and was unable to play the Derby while she was recovering. And after COVID, the casinos opened in 2020. After COVID hit the beginning of 2020, the D had a promotion called I Help Save the Sigma Derby. And you kind of remember there was a coin shortage at that time. I don't know if they were making them or getting distributed. Remember that?
Yep.
Well, that was kind of the heart and soul of this promotion. If you gave the cashiers down at the casino cage a whole bunch of quarters, then they would give you a shirt or a hat with I Save Sigma Derby on it. And, you're not going to be able to see it on the broadcast, but here is
he
one
is
right
holding
here.
up a beautiful shirt that says I Help Save Sigma Derby.
And it's got it's got the Sigma Derby logo on it.
Yeah.
And,
it's got a horse and
Sigma
rider.
Derby, the D Las Vegas. And they made hats.
And there's a hat too.
There it is.
The same logo. A bright sun of a logo.
So, if you were lucky enough, and you want, normally nobody was bringing in a roll of $10 worth of quarters. I think it was $60 to get a T-shirt. But if you were lucky enough to hit the 200-1, man, you cashed out immediately. You went down and you got your hat and you got your T-shirt. And
nice.
Since Christine couldn't come to play the Derby anymore in person, I sent her a shirt and a hat. And,
that's nice.
And In 2022, Derek Stevens had a celebration for the 10-year anniversary of the Derby at the D. And they gave away a T-shirt on Wednesday at the beginning of the promotion, starting at 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., basically, about every hour, sometime in that particular time. And anybody who was at the track got a shirt. And I've got one of those on right now, too. That's my 10-year anniversary shirt.
That's
right
awesome.
there.
Was that the one you were wearing when we met
Yes,
you?
it
think
was.
so. Yeah.
Uh-huh. That was it. Those are kind of my lucky shirts. And
Love it.
So
why were we not invited? I'm not sure what happened there.
Christine's cancer had gone into remission, okay? And she and her entire family made the Mecca to the D for the first day of the promotion. And I don't know who found out about it first, but everybody that was like on the webpage, we all started talking about it. So we talked it up pretty well. And Derek Stevens was there along with the Review Journal, the local newspaper. Everybody got their shirt, and the shirts changed. The first one out was 1-2, and then 1-3, 1-4, 1-5, and through the Quinella line. Everybody got their picture taken with Derek. The Review Journal was taking pictures. We wound up on the C section
there
of the first
Ski
page.
is holding up a copy of the Las Vegas
10th
Sun.
anniversary of the Review Journal there of the Sigma Derby. And so when Christine and I got our picture taken with Derek, she told him how I helped save Sigma Derby t-shirt that I sent her and that she put on her TV set while she was battling cancer. And it helped her believe that she would be able to come back and play Sigma Derby someday again.
This is so heartbreaking. This is an awesome story. It's so touching.
Heartwarming.
So heartwarming. That's what I mean.
It was kind of funny. I think they turned up the air conditioning unit because everybody kind of got watery eyes for the same reason.
Yeah.
And
great story.
that's the reason why you play Sigma Derby.
That's
That is a great story.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Really wonderful.
Who knew plastic horses could bring so much joy and tenderness?
Absolutely.
That's the power of Sigma Derby. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Amazing story. Amazing.
Thank you for that story. That's really amazing. But let's get to brass tacks, if you don't mind, Ski, because I'm dying to know someone with your experience about how you play and how you talk about. You've got the most fun thing about going to Vegas and playing all these crazy games is the lingo that we like to develop and talk about at the table. So what's some of the expert lingo that you use at the Sigma Derby table that can help our listeners sound like a pro when they play?
Or us, because we don't know any.
That's true.
We don't know
any.
We know a lot of craps, but no Sigma Derby lingo.
After you played the Derby for a while, you
Like 35,000 times.
Yeah, one or two times. You don't refer to the Quinellas anymore as 1-2, 1-3, 2-3, 2-4. You just look at the board. You refer to the odds on the board. So
40.
You just kind of,
okay.
yeah, you're looking at 41-1 or whatever. So let's say that, you're standing around, and this happened to me numerous times. You pull up to the table and you're unfortunately standing on the rail because there aren't any seats available at the track. And, you see the 200-1 to come up on the odds board. So you ask, like you're standing next to somebody and you go, hey, can you put 3/4 on the 200? And you hand him 3/4. And then if you got a rookie normally next to you, then you have to tell them 3/4 on the 2-5,
Right.
Instead of the 3/4 on the, the 200-1. And normally you do both just so they don't miss it. And hopefully then you wind up hitting it. And I don't know, a lot of the old time players that have played it a lot call the 200-1 the deuce,
The
just
deuce.
because
The deuce,
we do.
I like that.
The deuce.
I like that too. Yeah.
So did you hit the deuce?
If someone were behind me and handed me 3/4 and said, "Hey, can you bet this on the 200-1?" I would put 3/4 in there. If it hit, I'd turn around and say to the guy, "Okay, now I'll do yours."
I don't know. It would probably depend on how big that guy was and how old he was.
Yeah.
True.
Or how drunk he was. And in that case, that might not necessarily be a good choice either. So,
And it is a great game to drink to.
Oh God, yes.
Hey,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Plus, you can sit down while you play. That's a
and one of the other things that when we're talking on the Facebook page, and we relate whether or not a 200-1 is hit. If you got the old time players like Alex will do this, and there's some other players that do also. They'll say that they hit the 200-1, but then they'll tell you which race they hit it on. Because we talked about before the break, there were only 48 different race combinations, and actually, the 200-1 comes up in 10 of those 48.
Oh, interesting.
So
that's
like
amazing.
We refer to the races by the first three digits of the race, the odds that show up on the board. So like the 93-4-5 or the 523-200. So that's how we kind of talk about which race actually hit a 200.
So that would be the odds on the 1-2 horse, the 1-3 horse, and the 1-4, or the 1-2 combo, the 1-3 combo, and the 1-4 combo. So
right, first three odds on the board.
93-3-5 would be the 1-2 would be 93, the 1-3 would be 3, and the 1-3 would be 5. Is that right?
Right.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so that's how we kind of talk.
Catch up, Matt. Come on, catch up. That's what he's saying.
I'm a little slow.
So, poli-sci major, huh?
So there's 48 odds combinations, but any of those horses can still hit. Any of those quinellas can hit, right? In that race.
Absolutely.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You have no idea.
No,
right?
not at all. So, but that's how we kind of talk to each other. Like I say, you normally, if you look, like when I take, like one of my friends that's a rookie to the track, I tell him right now that, okay, I'm not going to tell you to bet the 1-2 or the 1-3 or the 1-4. I'm going to tell you to bet 31-1 or bet the 31. And then they're going to have to use their quick scan technique, figure out that that's the 2-4 and drop a quarter in there,
Yeah.
Now, my question with that is, when the race is going, how do you yell at the horses? Do you yell, go 41-1? Because you're not yelling, or are you going back to the horse numbers and say, go 3-4, go 4, go 4? How are you yelling? What is your yelling style at the table?
Now, for me, it's like, okay, 1-4-5, 1-4-5 in a box.
Okay, so you're calling the horse numbers.
No two,
okay.
no 2, or any two, So you have to be kind of specific to make sure that the plastic horses actually can understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
absolutely. You don't want any confusion.
And Burt, maybe you were going to ask this, but I'm curious if any of the specific combos have special names.
Actually, that 93-4-5 race that I referred to,
we
call that the Christine Collage Cup, because her and her family are the only ones that have hit the 200-1 on that race that we know of.
Wow.
Now, that doesn't mean that somebody else hasn't hit it.
Sure.
But nobody on the Facebook page over, the people at Post or myself or Alex or, some of the other, big time players that, kind of play it a lot have ever hit that race except for her and her family.
Wow. That's
so we
sweet.
call it, we call that race the Christine Collage Cup.
So the next time we're in Vegas and we're playing Sigma Derby, if the 93-4-5 comes up, we have to bet the 200.
I hate that race.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, it sounds like we have to bet the 200 on every race.
Oh, yeah. You
That's
bet
right.
at least 3, whether they win or not. There's 10 200s of the 48 race combinations. The D Casino has an 80% chip in their machine. The MGM had 88%. And believe me, the MGM machine played a lot easier and paid off a lot more often.
Interesting.
Up there, the 200-1 came up about every 24 hours, maybe. And you got a triple digit odds that would hit probably anywhere between 4 and 6 hours. And that was just kind of just a nominal observation. Getting a 200-1 at the D is like, it's harder than woodpecker lips, honestly. It's
good expression.
Pretty hard.
Save it.
And the 93 4-5 race, like I say, I have never hit a 200-1 on that guy. I've been shut out on that one.
the MGM machine and the Frontier machine, the MGM machine paid out more often. Were the odds the same, just different horse combinations finished, or were the odds actually different?
The 48 different races were different.
Okay.
Oh,
They were
They
similar.
were. They
Okay.
were interesting.
similar but different.
So like
Interesting.
93.45, if you're talking 93.45, you're only talking about the machine at the D. There might not be a 93.45 at the MGM or some place with a different chip.
Actually, on the 88% on the 88 chip on the MGM, there was a 93.45 race.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
But but the numbers downstream from that changed a little bit.
Okay.
Not a lot, but they did
Oh,
change.
okay.
So of those 48 different race combinations that you see on the 80% chip, those 48 races, when they come up, if it's the 93.45, those 10 odds are the same for that race. They don't change. Yeah. So, you're looking at the same board. So even though it looks different, it really isn't. And if you sit there and you play 19,000 races, you start seeing stuff like that.
Right. I was going to say, we would never notice that. Even playing as much as we have, we just don't have that level of data, even to know that there's 48
Not even
races.
close. Not even close.
Not even close. This is so fascinating.
And so how do you like to play? What's your strategy when you sit down to play? What do you do to try and get any sort of edge to kind of overtake the house advantage of any kind?
You can't.
Yeah. Fair.
That's why they call it gambling, not investing.
Right.
And in the short term, you can win. And my personal philosophy is if I hit a triple digit odds for multiples, which I will at least have 2 quarters on, or a 200 to 1, which I will have at least 3 quarters on. No matter if it's the second race of the day, then I drop my quarters and I leave. So I enjoy some short term winnings. But over time, you're going to lose. But
Yeah.
hey, it's only quarters unless you played 50,000 races and you're looking at you've probably dropped almost $100,000 in a freaking machine that has plastic horses in it, Now all of that, some of that came back, so it's not all that bad. It's just like a slot machine.
Sure.
Now all the casinos track, whether how much you coin in and coin out. So you coin in at a pretty decent rate in a lot of cases. Now maybe you guys staying at the $4 motel probably aren't, but other people that are betting in Vegas,
Right.
those guys are coining in at a pretty high rate. You talk to some of the people in the casino business and the hotels, the casino hostesses and those kind of people, and they'll tell you that people are coining in on the weekends, coming up from SoCal or something like that, and they're coining in at $60,000 a weekend.
Whoa!
And those guys aren't even, and they're not even staying at the mansion at the MGM, and they're probably not even staying at the Skylofts.
Right.
So there's a lot of people running some serious coins through the machines in
Wow.
Vegas, and that's the reason why they keep the lights on.
What we do is we share one seat and we take turns doing 1 quarter. So first I do a quarter, and then Burt does a quarter, and then Matt does a quarter, and then it's my turn again, unless I'm getting cold feet. And
or if we have to take a break to order a cocktail, then we'll skip a couple races.
Yeah. Well, so that's the like the gals at the D that are the cocktail waitresses. They know who I am, and they know not to bother me while I'm placing my bets.
Yeah.
So we actually saw Ski in action. We didn't see him in action at the Sigma Derby because when we were there, the machine was broken. But Ski was sitting there watching as they were working on the machine, and he knew the cocktail waitresses, and he had a sleeve of $2 bills to give them as they brought him his drinks, which was a classy touch that I could never.
Crisp.
Usually I'm digging in my pocket or my shoe for a sweaty $1 bill to give them.
Yeah,
I don't have that kind of class. I
I started the $2 bill thing
super classy.
back at around 2000, maybe the year 2000. I don't know how I came up with it. It just seemed like a good idea at the time. It was a good idea. Ferry popped on my shoulder, and I said, "Okay, let's do this." And so I took a $200 worth of $2 bills, and I started handing them out to the cocktail waitresses and to the the valets and that kind of stuff. And it makes a difference because then I kind of got the reputation of being the $2 bill guy.
Nice.
It wasn't like, now if you're handing them a 20, then you may get some recognition. $5 isn't going to get it. But like for a valet, but you hand them a 20, they'll go, thank you. But if you hand them, 5 $2 bills, all of a sudden it's like, holy mackerel. And they
it's a $2 bill guy.
Yeah.
Love it.
And I will say that, like I have relationships with many of the valets around town. And when I show up, depending on, like, just say at the D, the D is not normally all that busy. They look busy at night, but, their valet business is, steady in the evenings, and in the daytime, it's moderately okay. But when I come up to the D, I know all the valets by their first name because I've gotten to know them over time. And by giving them $2 bills, they know that I'm going to hand them a wad of twos, and they leave my car right out in the front. I don't even. Wow. They don't even. Nice. They don't even give me a ticket for the car. They just take my keys and take my $2 bills, and I get to go upstairs and play horses. And when I'm done,
awesome.
I come down and hand them a couple more twos. They hand me my keys, and I say, "See you tomorrow, boys." But that's the way the town used to actually be.
Right.
Yes.
You develop relationships with people. I mean, it's not just that they're the valets at the D. I know them. I know where they live in town. I know how many kids they have. I know what shifts they work.
I'm just realizing, Ski, you have a lot of class, and I'm wondering if we should. I'm thinking of moving to a different podcast, you guys. It sounds a little more cool. I'm sorry.
Well, I just, what? Like I said, my parents moved there in 1991, and that was more of old day Vegas. And back in the 80s, it was really more of the old day Vegas. In the 70s, I was actually stationed at Nellis for about almost a year. At the end of the 70s and the beginning of the 80s. And the town has changed considerably since then.
Yeah.
But it still is a relationship town. And if you go there enough, like we're blessed to be able to do that, I try to make the most of that. When we go there normally on a 3-day trip, I spend pretty much a good portion of the day going around and talking to all the valets at the different locations that we go to, and going to talk to people that are working in the casinos and at the rewards desks and those places. So yeah, it's
love that.
If you take the time and you have the time, you can actually build some pretty neat relationships.
We talk to a lot of people. Well, not so much. I guess we get yelled at by a lot of people in Las Vegas.
Yes,
but
it's true.
we haven't developed relationships.
Occasionally, people in uniforms will ask us for our names and driver's license.
Yeah, that's not good unless they're handing you, a W-2G. Then that's not good.
Right.
No.
Right.
Okay, guys. It looks like the number 5 horse is coming around the far turn, so it's time to take one more break. But when we come back, we're going to talk about the future of Sigma Derby, and I've got a bone to pick with Ski that I need to get off my chest, and I got to tell you, I want witnesses too, so stay with us.
If you play the horses, come play the Sport of Kings Racebook in Las Vegas, Nevada. And we'll match 5% of all your pari-mutuel play. That's a minimum of $100 made available exclusively to our guests. With deluxe shuttle service and nearby hotel accommodations available, we'll make your stay a unique experience. Sport of Kings, the only racebook in Nevada dedicated exclusively to the Sport of Kings. For further information, call 1-800-821-3719.
And now it's time for the Neon Gutters Sigma Derby Race of the Week.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did that sound interrupt our broadcast? Because that was me winning the last race. But now the next race is coming. The horses have just gotten out of the gate, and 1, 2, 4, 5 are all neck and neck. 3 is way behind to begin with.
But I've got 3-4. Matt's got 2-5, 3-4, 3-5. Oh, he's got so many races. It doesn't even now. 1, 2, 4, and 5 are all neck and neck, and it's too close to call. This is going to be a photo finish. Here comes 3 from behind. It's going to be 1-3. It's going to be 1-3. An 8-1 shot. 1-3 is the winner, and Matt, I don't think he's going to be able to eat tonight because he's rubbing his head. His head is in his hands, and I think that might have been the last quarter. It's the last quarter he can really claim ownership to, and right now it's into the Sigma Derby bowels. We hope you're not in the Sigma Derby bowels. We hope you're in the Neon Gutter bowels, and we see you there later for the next podcast.
Hey, it's Lucky Ned again. Did you win on that race? I know I did. If you didn't, you should try to be luckier. The more you win, the luckier you are. It's a very simple mathematical formula, but not everyone understands it. Now, if you want to get more highly advanced advice on betting the toy equines, you can go to neongutter.com. Download my Sigma Derby in credit system at no cost to you. But boy, is it going to pay off. We're going to have more Sigma Derby action for you on the next episode, so tune in. And now back to the show.
And welcome back to the wet, sloppy track we like to call the Neon Gutter. We've been talking with our new friend and Sigma Derby expert, Ski, to pick his brain about everything toy horse related. So, Ski, what's really important for someone who's got class like you, as we were talking about earlier, is etiquette. That's not something we are very concerned about most of the time. But for you, I imagine that there's some etiquette that people like to get engaged with when playing Sigma Derby, if you choose to. Can you tell us and tell our listeners a little bit about what the etiquette should be and shouldn't be at the Sigma Derby table?
Sure. You can go crazy. You can make as much noise as you want. You can be happy. You can be sad. But the bottom line is, don't spill your drinks on the glass or on the console. Okay, that's a serious party foul. Plus, it's alcohol abuse. All right, and then kind of related to the glass, don't pound the glass. Okay. Yep. The glass has been broken before. And guess what?
Wow.
They don't have one down in the basement that they can run right downstairs and pick it up and throw a new one on the machine. Nope. They got to go down to the glass store, so it's going to take at least 24 hours before they can get a replacement. And then, I don't know, from the old timers of the guys that have watched the machine and are trying to keep this thing going, don't drop your quarters after winning, the 2-1. All right,
I'm guilty. I'm guilty
drop your winnings after every race. Don't do that. And the reason why is because eventually the machine's going to jam on you. Okay. And you're not going anywhere until the slot attendant comes by and you get one of the particular errors. It's easy to clear, but you have to get one of the slot attendants to come over and fix it. And you know what? While you're waiting for your machine to get reset, you aren't playing, and
nobody else can
you're
either.
Certainly in danger of missing that 200 to 1.
Yes.
And then that's going to make you
importantly,
really feel bad.
Yes.
So
yes.
Don't drop your quarters until you're, it's kind of like the Kenny Rogers song, you never count your money while you're sitting at the table. Don't drop your quarters until you're ready to cash out, if you have any left.
So the etiquette is really respect the machine. You don't have to respect the other players, but respect the machine.
Absolutely.
Yes.
There you go.
There's only one machine left on the planet. Everybody else is replaceable.
That machine is so fragile. It's like it literally is like cardboard and wire strung together with wire. I mean, we have to treat that thing like so carefully because it's something breaks every time we play it. At least one of the stations breaks every time we play it.
Pretty much.
Yeah, they do a great job trying to keep those things running.
They do.
But,
they do.
Normally you see tape over at least to 3 stations. Just and part of that is because people dropping their stupid coins, in between, between when they start playing and when they're ready to cash out, because it's hard on them. So it basically gives you just the jamming error where it doesn't allow your coins to drop or load, or it will only, when you drop them, let's say you actually hit, say, 30 to 1 or 31 to 1, and it only drops 10 of those coins, and then you wind up getting stuck, and then they have to fix that. So,
and Ski, you've been calling out some of the people who work there, the cocktail servers. Do you know the names of do you want to name drop any of the engineers who are constantly there fixing?
Oh, Ario is just, that's his baby.
The main guy.
He's the lead tech at the D. And
we got to meet him briefly.
That's his baby.
Nice.
He's the lead guy, and normally if something's really wrong with the machine, he's out there working on it.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll put some photos up on the website to show
of them working on it.
Oh yeah, when it was torn apart.
It torn apart.
Look at the inside of that thing, and it's all wires and condensers and stuff like that. It's a
exhaust hose.
Major's nightmare. I mean, it's like nothing. You open up a new machine with the the electronic components, and they're just switching out a board, or a cartridge. When those guys are working on it, man, they're doing some serious,
it's a lot
old time electronic fixing things. Yeah.
Now, as you mentioned, those guys, and of course, being employed by Derek Stevens, they all do a fantastic job of keeping the game alive. Do you have any sense about how long they can keep this alive? Can they do it indefinitely just with enough money and effort? Keep it going, or do you think at some point something's going to give and they're just not going to be able to keep it going?
Hard to say. Derek, Derek started an effort a couple of years ago to get the 2 machines from the Mount Blue up at South Lake Tahoe. It took him about 2 years to get the Nevada Gaming Commission to actually approve the sale and to get that done, because, that's not probably on the top of their list of important things to do. But eventually they did get the approval, and he sent a truck up there and, had some of the guys go up, and they brought back all the pieces that they could find in the basement. And they've been using those for the last couple of years now. And they did a major rebuild after they got all of them. They did a lot of replacements, but I'm pretty sure that those parts wells are starting to dry up, and now you're just making up stuff. If you have a major chain break, like that's what was wrong with the machine when we were there at Christmas, right, and we weren't able to play. The chain was not functioning correctly. It's not a bicycle chain, and there ain't any of those left on the planet. Right. So, you're sitting there, either trying to manufacture a couple of links, or you find a link from another one, and then you have to get it back together and then make everything, kind of line up and work out with the, and the tensions and everything. That's the reason why you see those guys doing, standing on their heads trying to get stuff fixed. When they have a major breakdown, it's bad news. Hopefully they'll be able to keep it running. But they're facing some hard challenges, and fortunately Derek is really committed to that machine. Yeah. I have heard the story that when he turned 21, he's from Detroit, and when he turned 21, he came to Vegas. And that was one of the machines that he played, and he fell in love with it. And that's the reason why he has one on the second floor of the D Hotel and Casino.
So if you're listening to this and you're inspired to go play, don't. Save it for us.
Just watch it from afar.
Don't drop your quarters.
Don't touch the machine.
Don't drop your
quarters.
I'm guilty of that because, like, if I hit a 10 to 1 and dance it next to me and he loses, I want him to hear my 10 quarters fall out. So I'm guilty of that. So I'm not going to do that anymore.
You just have to be a gracious winner. You kind of just give him the elbow and go.
No, I'm not capable of that.
Tap the console.
That's never happening.
You're talking to.
I don't have enough experience with winning to be gracious.
Yeah,
or grace.
Yeah. So that thing. There's no way that that thing brings in more money than it costs them.
Absolutely. No, it's a loss leader.
Yeah. But you know what? It makes the whole upstairs of that casino so much more lively. It just makes the whole upstairs of the D seem like that much more fun because of everyone screaming and yelling and everything.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. It's an atmosphere that is not recreated.
Right.
Yeah, the closest thing is really around the craps tables. That's probably the only thing that kind of relates even closely to it.
Yep, and that's probably one of the reasons we like it as much as we do, for sure. So I mentioned I have a bone to pick with you, Ski, and I don't know if I should put the blame on you or not, but I don't know if you're familiar with the Sigma Derby Wikipedia page. But are you familiar with it at all? There's a Wikipedia
I have
page
actually
for Sigma
looked
Derby.
at it. Yes, and there's really nothing on it.
Yeah, there's very little on it, and one of the reasons is because the page was first made, from what I can tell, looking at the history, in July of 2007, and in August of 2007, a bunch of stuff was added to it, and if you look on it, what still remains is a photograph of the how to play Derby instructions.
Yeah, it has
and if you look in the metadata of the photograph, you'll see that was uploaded in August of 2007 by someone named Burt Cohen. And
That's you.
If you look in the history, there was also a bunch of information about the June 2000's first Sigma Derby Handicappers Challenge, hosted by the Big Empire at the New Frontier. That was also us, and that got scrubbed off of the site at some point. So I don't know if you know who scrubbed it off, but I've got to find that guy. So whoever that was, we got to find that person.
Boy, I have no idea. You know. I'm barely a Facebook guy, like I say. We set off the air. I post on Facebook for one thing when I hit a 200-1 to tell the people that I hit the 200-1 at a particular time on a particular day and which race it was, and that's pretty much it. Outside of that, I got no clue. Heck, I was lucky to get this Zoom call going and get my earphones working so I could hear you guys.
You did a fantastic job.
Yep.
Well, Ski, I got to thank you so much for joining us today. I'll speak for Dan and Matt. We've had a great time talking with you so much. And we really hope that we get a chance to play Sigma Derby with you in person during our trip next month. So we hope to see you there and get a chance to drop some quarters. And I know we'll be saving up quarters until then. But thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate having you.
Here.
Yes.
It was great. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thank you,
We'll definitely play. I'll be out there for, heck, we're going out on Tuesday through Friday, so you want to join me this week?
Lucky.
In March.
No, okay, March it is.
Looking forward to it.
All right, so now on our next episode, listeners, we'll be talking with one of the most celebrated gamblers of all time, Lucky Ned. Ooh. And hopefully we'll get some tips from him on cards, dice, love, and maybe even Sigma Derby as well. That's an episode you're not going to want to miss. But until then, always bet the 200-1 shot. We'll see you next time.
The cash won't last.
The Neon Gutter is a Big Empire production. Randy Shandis, executive producer. Our incredible theme music is courtesy of Rosin Coven. Do you have something to say? Call our voicemail line at 775-400-2941. And for more episodes, vintage photographs and video, contact info, and those amazing trip reports, visit us at neongutter.com.
Las Vegas Haiku 93.45. The plastic ponies are off. The jockeys are drunk.
Hey, Dan, I couldn't tell you the haiku from a high five.